Hey guys, KangaskKid18 here, and just yesterday Game Freak dropped another trailer revealing new information about Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. We didn't get to see any new portions of the Galar region, but we did get to see some of the new characters. For one, there's Beedee, a fellow who I can't tell if he's 14 or if he's 40. I think it's because he's got either crow's feet or magnificent eyelashes, and I simply can't tell which it is. Beedee is supposed to be your rival, and he's not the only one because there's also Marnie, a punk rock chick who's for some reason got her own fan club that announced their presence using off-brand vuvuzelas. They're the new Team Yell. Much like Team Skull, this seems to be another team of generic hoodlums for the Pokemon series, which means there's got to be some secret evil shenanigans going on in the Galar region. And who's to say who's responsible? Definitely not him. No, couldn't be. No way. In any case, like Marnie, Team Yell puts on a punk rock persona, which I gotta say is kinda cool. I love early punk bands like the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, and the Clash, and I'm hoping that Team Yell brings their own brand of anarchy to the UK. But when it comes down to it, who really cares about the characters? Pokemon games are all about the Pokemon, and Game Freak really pulled a fast one on us with this trailer, showcasing the return of regional forms, starting with Galarian Weezing. I love the fact that regional forms are coming back. For once, Game Freak had a good idea and actually followed up with it in a new generation. Could you imagine if Game Freak had come up with an amazing idea like, say, Seasons, or the PSS, or DexNav, and then just totally forgot about it when it came time to make a new game? They wouldn't do something like that. Anyway, back to Galarian Weezing. Now, I do like this thing, but it kinda looks funny with its top hat smokestack, and I think it's because the stack is a little too big. The larger Weezing should have a shorter stovepipe, while the smaller Weezing should have something similar to a bowler hat. It'd still be awesome and totally British without looking ridiculous. But then there's the typing. Granted, Poison Fairy is a great typing, but nowhere in the design or the description of the Pokemon is the fairy type justified. I quote from the website, Galarian Weezing consumes polluted air and poisonous gases for sustenance. The byproduct of this consumption is purified air, which is spewed out from the top of its heads. The toxins accumulated within Weezing's body form into concentrated poison gas clouds that leak out and drift around it. This gas is so potent that even a whiff is enough to stun and immobilize an opponent, making it Weezing's best weapon during battles. So you can see, the poison type makes sense, but the fairy type does not. Because the smokestack looks like a cast iron stovepipe, I would have made Weezing Poison Steel, which just so happens to be a type combination that hasn't been used before. And because Weezing floats, it would be totally justified to give it the ability Levitate, thus eliminating super effective ground type moves that would be its greatest weakness. Nevertheless, with all the complaining I've been doing here, I am super stoked to see regional forms back in these games. So let's get on to the shinies. Regional forms are kind of weird. Sometimes they get colors similar to their normal shinies, and in this case, Galarian Weezing would get a deep teal overall, but with pinkish smog all about, which looks pretty good. But I think this Weezing has a unique opportunity to showcase a blast from the past. What if Galarian Weezing turned a deep cobalt blue instead, with light powder blue for the smog? Not only does this look cool, but it's the exact same shiny that Weezing had back in the days of Generation 2, and this sort of throwback is not without precedence. In Generation 6, Game Freak took Mega Charizard Y and turned it shiny light purple, just like Charizard shiny from the original Gold and Silver. I'd love it if Game Freak would continue to integrate some of the older shiny designs into the modern games like this. But with that, let's move on to another new Pokemon revealed today. It's the regional Pika clone, Morpeko. And we can tell it's the Pika clone because it literally has the image and outline of a Pikachu tail on its butt. Morpeko is kind of a weird Pokemon in that it's normally in its full belly mode, but if it uses the move Aura Wheel, it will quickly change into its hangry mode, which is my new favorite thing in the Pokemon universe, partially because I have several people in my life that will quickly change into hangry mode like this. Oftentimes, Pokemon that change forms like this will receive two different shinies. Take Darmanitan for example. Normally, its shiny turns a deep maroon, but get Darmanitan to change into its Zen form and boom, its shiny turns dark blue with silver highlights. So similarly, I will be giving Morpeko two different shinies. To start with, let's acknowledge that in the last couple of generations, Game Freak has been changing one color on a shiny and calling it quits, which can lead to some very lazy shiny designs. And if they were to do that here, I bet they'd change Morpeko's brown color to a deep purple and call it a day. But that's so boring, right? Even if I know it's fully within Game Freak's capabilities. So instead, let's turn Morpeko kind of a dark rose color overall. And to top it off, some turquoise cheek pouches. I think this looks great, but there may be another option here. Normally, Morpeko is half brown, half black in its full belly mode, with a yellow underside. So instead, let's turn it all black, but with a bright purple underside. Not only do these colors look cool, but they should also look familiar. Know why? You guessed it, because those are the same colors it gets when it turns into Hangry mode, which, again, I gotta point out, Hangry mode is hilarious. Anyway, similar to the shiny we just gave full belly mode, let's give Hangry mode its inverses colors. In this case, half brown, half black, but with a yellow belly. Again, this looks hilarious and would also be fitting for such an odd Pokemon. But while Morpeko is probably based off Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I like to think of it more of a Dr. Banner and the Incredible Hulk. So let's instead turn Hangry mode sea green overall, with a purple underside, like it's the Hulk bursting out of Banner's purple pants. I think this shiny is fairly unique, and though the colors seem dissonant at first, I think they actually work pretty well together in the end. And with that, let's move on to one of my favorite Pokemon that's been revealed for these games. It's the new regional form, Galarian Zigzagoon. Now, Zigzagoon's always been one of my favorite Pokemon, and the new black and white pattern that Galarian Zigzagoon gets really looks awesome. I mean, it turns this tiny raccoon into a real trash panda, am I right? In any case, let's get on with those shinies, and now I will warn you, I was super indecisive about Galarian Zigzagoon. I made about 5 different shinies for this Pokemon, and I've decided, screw it, I'll just show them all. First off, let's take the obvious route, and turn Galarian Zigzagoon the same colors as normal Shiny Zigzagoon. So kind of burnt orange, interlaced with a light cream color, but with amber eyes. And while I do think this is absolutely almost 100% the shiny that Game Freak is gonna use, let's have a little fun. Instead, we could give Zigzagoon a nice white and cerulean color scheme, which doesn't look bad, but I think it would look much better if the darker stripes turned a deep raspberry red instead. If I had to choose one shiny for Galarian Zigzagoon, I think this would be it. The colors work so well together, and the pale blue eyes really finish it off with a nice touch. But what if instead we were to turn Zigzagoon a pale pink with turquoise eyes? Something seems off here. I'm not sure what it is. Aha, got it. Okay, it's something Game Freak hasn't done in a long time, but I think that it's super necessary. Let's give Galarian Zigzagoon a purple tongue. As you'll see in the rest of this evolution line, changing the color of a Pokemon's tongue can turn a mediocre shiny into something that's truly great. Now, is there any other shiny color we could give to this Galarian Zigzagoon? Anything else? Oh, yeah, well, I suppose we could just switch the black and white colors around, but really, who would want that? Yo! Oh. Okay, most people apparently. Yes, these inverse colors do look great on Galarian Zigzagoon, but I think it might be just a little too obvious. Still, if it ended up looking like this, I think I'd be okay with it. Moving on, it turns out that Galarian Zigzagoon evolves into, well, wouldn't you know, Galarian Linoone. And like the Zigzagoon from earlier, there's a pretty obvious shiny for Galarian Linoone. Just turn it the same orange color as standard Shiny Linoone, which honestly does look good on this Pokemon. But again, like Zigzagoon, there are just so many other options. For example, you could turn the whole thing a pale purple overall, but with a green eye, which does look really nice. Or like earlier, there's the option of a raspberry red color, but with more of a turquoise eye. And like Zigzagoon, I feel that this really does fit the Pokemon well, perhaps better than any other option. But for the sake of argument, let's turn Shiny Galarian Linoone the same pink color as the Zigzagoon from earlier. And like earlier, something just seems a little off, and in this case, it's the same problem as before. It needs a different color tongue, in this instance turquoise, like its eyes. And what a difference this makes. Yet again, a pretty mediocre shiny is really elevated by the addition of a colorful tongue. But we know more and more nowadays that that is an unlikely part of the shiny to change, so let's go back to basics. Like with the Zigzagoon from before, it's pretty easy to imagine Shiny Galarian Linoone switching its white and black color scheme to Mixed results in my opinion. As cool as color swap shinies usually are, it looks somewhat unnatural on Galarian Linoone. Instead, I truly believe the raspberry red color from before makes for the best shiny for this Pokemon. But Game Freak wasn't done with their surprises, and against all odds, Galarian Linoone can evolve farther than its Hoenn cousins, in this case becoming a huge linebacker of a Pokemon called Obstagoon. Obstagoon is weird. It's like part football player, part motorcycle punk, but then it seemingly got platform heels and face makeup and it's sticking out its tongue. Oh my god, they made Gene Simmons into a Pokemon, didn't they? Yes, it seems impossible to deny. Along with Gene here, Linoone looks a little like Ace Frehley, and Zigzagoon is the spitting image of Paul Stanley, which means, because nobody really cares about Peter Criss, that this evolution line is almost certainly based off the rock band Kiss. I never thought I'd see the day, folks, when a Pokemon is so obviously based off a real-life, outspoken, controversial celebrity. Nope, has never happened before. Even though I'm showing my age a bit, I'll admit that I've actually seen Kiss in concert, and while I'm surprised they base these Pokemon off an American rock band, I'm actually enjoying these Kiss-themed Pokemon. In any case, enough of these pop culture references. Let's get on to the shinies. We'll begin as before, with the obvious option being to turn Obstagoon into the same orange color as the shinies for its pre-evolutions. But for some reason, it doesn't quite work here, just a little too gaudy. So let's tone that on down and make everything kind of a brown color instead, which I think looks a little better. It gets kind of the same point across, but without going over the top. But perhaps over the top is exactly what this shiny needs. So for my next option, we're gonna combine the raspberry red and pink shinies from earlier, complete with, you guessed it, a different colored tongue to tie it all together. I definitely think that this looks pretty good, but perhaps there's a better choice. Like we've done previously, we could take Obstagoon and switch those black and white colors around, which I think probably works better here than it does on any other Pokemon in its evolution line. But yet again, something's not quite right. I think there's something missing. In fact, I think that the best choice would be to turn Obstagoon bright cerulean overall, complete with turquoise for the eyes and tongue, and light periwinkle for the furry bits. This Pokemon ended up being pretty difficult to design shinies for, and while I don't think we're gonna get anything near this cool, I truly believe that this is gonna be our best possible shiny. Anyway guys, that's all I've got for you today. At this point, Pokemon Sword and Shield are just a couple of months away. Every time I see a new trailer, things continue to look more and more promising. I look forward to exploring the Galar region and its many shiny Pokemon in the very near future. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, we are gonna see you on the next shiny.